I can't see you all, but I hear you. Can you hear me?
It's quite spooky, isn't it? It's a bit voyeuristic.
I know, it is. All right, I can't even see who's in the house, but how many we're gonna talk about veg. How many vegetarians do we have out there? Okay, now keep your hands up. Now, how many people do we have out there who love vegetables? Exactly, that's why they're here, Jamie.
More to the point, who hates vegetables? Put your hands up.
I know.
There you go, we got one, we got two.
I know, what took you so long to do this book, dude? I mean, you've been working on this for 8 years. Why 8 years?
Yeah, I wrote it 9 years ago, and I've been pitching it every year. The book was published, but I knew that the veg narrative was so important to do it justice that I had to get the TV show to go with it. And broadcasting wasn't ready for it.
I think
and the conversation wasn't quite ready for it, I don't think.
So they kept saying no?
They just said, no, it's boring. No, it's boring, and it's, you know, and I think it's a bit of, yeah, it's always about how you do things, isn't it? And nothing in the planet has to be boring.
Right.
It's just how you do it. So I tried and I tried and I tried, and finally last year, they said, yes, we did it. It smashed the ratings. They've asked for a second season, and it's like, yeah, righto. But I think more than ever, it's like an interesting time now. And what I've tried to do as a meat eater is not make it a divisive subject, not make it about being any kind of vegetarianism, veganism, pescatarianism. There's many isms out there, and I just think that just for the joy and for the love of food, let's just focus, let's just change the lens, so your show though is meat-free meals. Yeah. And I just wanted to get the name out, but it hasn't started here. It's not here yet. When does it come here? I don't know.
I was looking for it.
Broadcasting's somewhat erratic over here these days. If you're not willing to do a game show, you know, the American broadcasters, they do like some strange cooking shows. But I think 5-minute meals, 5 ingredients went on. Is it CBS? Mm-hmm. And I think we did really well with that. And look, I'm 20 years. I mean, I remember launching Food Network. God, it was like 19 years ago, so 18 years ago. So 18
years ago, and let me just say, I'm a huge fan. I just want to go on the record, so if I have a meltdown or anything, I just want y'all to know what's happening. A huge fan. I tell my assistant, Kirsten, I was like, oh my God, I am going to get to interview Jamie Oliver.
Go on, girl.
Okay, right? And she goes, who? I was like, you know the Naked Chef. She's like, what, does he cook in the nude? I mean, well, right? Okay, so then I got excited because you sent me a DM on Instagram, and you're like, can't wait to see you tomorrow, babe. I'm like, what? Call me babe anytime. And I sent this to her, and she was like, was he naked? Because I was all excited. So there's a theme there with her. But my point is, why the title Naked Chef when you started?
Well, I was a very young lad, and like a lot of TV shows around the world, a lot of the people representing food were often men by majority, and often more mature, and often in chef whites with a hat. And so the Naked Chef for me was about, I just wrote a little document. When TV, I was on the background of a documentary. I wrote a little, like, 2-paragraph thing just saying, look, I just want to do a show. If I was to do a show, it would be about stripping restaurant food down to its bare essentials, me at home, my friends, my family, cut to my music. And it was stripping down and bare essentials that were like, stripping, bare, naked. And of course, as we know, what was it, in the last decade in the UK, they did like the roundup of the best-selling books. Mm-hmm. And basically, I think 1 and 2 was 50 Shades of Grey, 1 and 2, right? So sex, right? Yes. 3 was me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wait for it, Harry Potter, 4. So basically, if you're a sexual culinary wizard, that is the book for you, brother.
That is the book for you.
If you want to sell loads of books, that's what you got to do. But I think
the sale of
being provocative, it helps.
Yes, yes.
And I think being provocative and being a bit younger and trying to do things differently, I was so naive, but I think somehow I was lucky enough to make that work.
Did you ever do a calendar with that book?
Twice.
A naked calendar.
No way, Jose.
I'm just
I
asking.
wanted to sell them. No, I did. For real. I did the first calendar we did. Like, you know, if I remember rightly, we sold 180,000 copies, and I had no money, and I'm like, fucking hell, dude, looks so sad. Like, woo. We did the second year. We did the second one, and the front cover got chosen. I swear to God, this is utterly true. And we printed like 150,000 of them, and we sold them to all the retailers. And it got recalled from Boots, which is a very sort of famous drugstore in the UK, because basically I was sitting in Paris with my leg up, looking whimsically off into the distance, and there was a bag of apricots, which just happened to look like a massive sculpted penis, and no one had realised, including me. But when you look from when you look from a foot away and then you look from 2 meters away, and it's like, oh my God, that's completely inappropriate. So we had a recall on my second calendar, and then calendars sort of died for me after that, really.
So
I'll show you the
almost
picture
naked.
later. No, it's amazing how innocently realistic it was, but I'll show you later.
I want to see it. I want to see it. Well, let me ask you this. So you were about, what, 23 when you got started? 23
when I got started, I think 24 when it broadcast.
Yeah.
And I'd grown up in the food industry, and just, I think like it was a whole mixture of things. It was timing. I think it was a good, fresh energy, simple food. But more than anything, it was sort of saying that anyone can cook.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go to a restaurant to have a party. You can do it in your own home. And I think, I could only think of the UK at the time, but just getting stuck in, having a laugh, you know, being grateful to the fact that our supermarkets, even at that stage, I mean, they're even better now, but like even then, it's kind of like you could cook a dish from anywhere in the world. And it just went massive.
But I mean, my point is that you were 23. We saw you publicly in your 20s,
yep,
in your 30s,
yep,
now in your 40s, which are very different decades.
Yeah, definitely.
And how have you managed that? I mean, what are some of the challenges of that? Because it was very public. I mean, you know, we know your wife, we know your kids. Poppy,
yeah, I mean, I think,
Blossom.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids, and
a lot of kids with some cool names.
Yeah, I don't have any control of the names, I'm afraid. That's all my wife. Yeah, I mean, I think in one respect it's amazing. I'm really, really, truly grateful that that I get to live in a lot of people's kitchens on a shelf, and I think you can get lucky and sell a few books once or twice, but to have 20 years of prolific publishing is really only trust.
23 books.
Thank you. But we work so hard to make our recipes like robust, and we're really conscious that when people follow a recipe and they spend 30 bucks, 40 bucks on ingredients, like if it doesn't work, it's like, it's really, and there's so many bad cookbooks out there.
Yeah.
So I think like, I don't know, it's been an honor to sort of grow with the public. It's also quite frightening. It's amazing that people really feel that they really know you in a friendly sense. So that's amazing. I don't have too many problems. I mean, you know, you do get your kind of bumps, you get your stalkers, you get trouble, you get, you know, aggressive attacks, normally in waves of 3 years from the press.
Like what?
Just like super aggressive, complete bullshit, awful accusations that aren't real. Sometimes you.
I was called a man.
Were you?
Yeah, but, I mean, you can Google it. Is Carla Hall a man? I mean.
And what do you do then? Do you sue, or just take it?
You put some apricots next to you and compare your bits. I don't know. No, you just let him die.
I mean, you do have to put up with quite a lot of crap. But I mean, I remember in the second year of The Naked Chef, it had kicked off. It was already in 20, 30 countries, and it wasn't slowing down. And I remember having to make the decision, like, are you in?
Right.
Or are you out?
Yeah.
And I think I've learned that kind of anonymity is such an incredible gift. To be able to go into a room and make a first impression, for better or for worse, is a gift. So then when everyone thinks they know you, I mean, you just try and do the best you can, try and be as nice as you can, try and do good work, you know, try your best to not treat people badly, treat them well, and try and, if you do projects, represent things that are positive. And that's definitely what I've tried to do, certainly for the last 17 years.
Yeah, and I think we've seen your passion in your cooking as well as an activist, or what you call a campaigner, and how you have developed in terms of these passions outside of your cooking show and outside of your cookbooks, and they just continue to blossom. I think it was like 2008 or so, and I'd already left London, but it was just the words Ministry of Food.
Yeah.
And of food ministry, and I was just like, whoa. Yeah.
The Ministry of Food was like an incredible thing. So the Ministry of Food was basically a project we did like probably 12 years ago now. And I kind of like, outside of the normal kind of chop and chat show and TV world, on the campaigning side, the things that irk me and really upset me and that I'm really passionate about is child health. And so that, and of course it's not my own kids. My kids are totally looked after. It's vulnerable communities, poor parts of towns. We know that if you're from a poor part of town, you know, your health statistics are like, you know, you're 2.5 times as likely to be overweight or obese, to get paid less, die younger, be less productive, do less well at school. I mean, there's all these kind of patterns that keep happening. And the Ministry of Food for me was like it was the last time the British government did anything to go to the public to nourish them. And it was a ministry set up in the Second World War. And there was like 1,500 of these incredible women that would go out around the whole country. They'd go to like bingo halls, cinemas, streets, markets, and they'd set up pop-up little demo sections, and they'd teach people how to cook in war with rations. And I just couldn't help but think how beautiful that was in every way, shape and form. The idea of the state empowering an army of incredible, they happened to be women because they were all women, but I mean, in this day and age, it could be anyone. Right. But the idea of the state empowering an army of people that love their community to go and help their community, it felt so much like what we needed in Britain, and I believe the States as well. So I restarted the Ministry of Food, and it still runs to this day. We've got various centres around the UK. We're probably more robust in Australia actually, where we've got trucks that go off into the suburbs and into.
Can I volunteer for that?
For sure, yeah, 100%, 100%, yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful project. We do like 10 recipes to save your life. So, so we try and just get local people that are vulnerable to learn the basics of budgeting, the basics of nutrition, how to shop locally, like learn their hood and where they can get bargains and discounts, and then like teach them how to make soups easy, cheap and delicious. You know, stews, roasts, stir fries, you name it. And it really, really works well.
Last night, I'm switching because
Switch away.
The ultimate veg is behind me, and last night I did the mushroom shawarma.
Yes, I saw. Yeah, how'd it go?
Were you on my page?
Yeah, I was.
I had to make skewers because I couldn't find any.
Okay.
I had to whittle some long matchsticks.
Good. Okay.
I am a MacGyver, dude. I was like, oh, I'm making this shawarma. You know, if I
thought you were going to say like the leg of your chair. It was like, you know.
Delicious. I think one of the things that I love about the book, and I've made a couple things, is that you do these flavor bombs, which what I call flavor bombs. You know, where you're making the depth of flavor in vegetables, and they're so delicious. Yeah. And like the food just happens to be vegetarian, but food that everybody is going to like. Can you talk about that and how you approached the food, not just as a vegetarian dish, but just as delicious food? And the cauliflower pizza, which I was a little scared of, is not a cauliflower crust.
Oh, the cauliflower cheese pizza pie.
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that was. I mean, you know, cauliflower, cheese, and pizza. What you want to? Do you need to know anything more?
But it's been. I don't want to say it's been messed up because I understand people being need to be gluten-free, but it was actually a pizza.
Yeah, I mean, it was more of a Chicago style, like tin pizza, which of course for your average home is much easier to achieve. But look, I think for me in the book world, it's, and as a dyslexic dude, I've realised that there's no, just logic and doing well is not enough for a good cookbook. Like I find it quite a. I look at it in so many different lenses. So if there's too much, it depends what the brief of the book is. But I think simple recipes, having enough comfort food dishes, stuff that I know you want, things that are close enough to you, but then enough stuff that you've never heard of before. Try and go around the world. Try and have a mixture of like one pan, one tray dishes, stuff that doesn't, you know, I'm even editing recipes to create less washing up.
Yes.
So it's
I think about that in my books
all
too.
of that stuff. So, and then, and just be really upfront with like, you know, making sure that most of it's really healthy, enough of it's indulgent, because I think you need that yin and yang, right? And then, yeah, but there's still something really beautiful about books. And I think it's so fascinating that even with the digital revolution, like books is still solid. You know, book sales in America, in the UK, in most of the countries where I work, they're solid. And actually digital books don't work. Illustrated ones don't, you know, for sure. And I don't know why, actually. Because on digital illustrated books, you can do video, you can kind of like click, you know, you don't have to be just committed to a double page spread. You can kind of go into step-by-steps or Wikipedia or kind of like, I mean, it can go anywhere. But yeah, people don't dig it. But I kind of like the fact that
I don't think it's an or, I think it's an and. I think they like that and books. I want to physically touch my books, but I'll also have the same book on Kindle so that if I'm shopping or if I'm out or if I just want to look at a book, I will look at it with my iPad.
Well, it's funny, when we did 5 ingredients, like I saw for the first time through hashtags that people were not keeping the book in the kitchen like they were. They were keeping them in cars, in the glove compartment, and at work next to the computer. And they were taking pictures of the pages because it was just 5 ingredients and sending it to their girlfriend or their boyfriend or husband or wife or lover or whatever and just going like, look, we got this, we got that. Can you pick up that on the way home? Yeah. So like you can kind of track that, and it's kind of, I was excited that, you know, I think the idea of good is not a kind of, it's not, like everything's moving. People, like doing my job now compared to 20 years ago, it's uncomparable. You know, you got more choice. People are kind of like, have more of an idea of the rest of the world, but yes, they've done some amazing studies with tens of thousands of people, and literally when I started off in The Naked Chef 20 years ago, I think the average amount of time for the average person in the UK, and it will translate to the US, was like 40 minutes. Yep.
I think it's 20 here.
It's now the last time we did it, which is 4 years ago, is 22 minutes. Yeah. I think it's more like 18 minutes now. So it's what they want and what they're willing to put in is changing very, very, very fast. So, you know, you kind of got to be contemporary and try and work with them and be honest and realistic about supermarkets. Yeah. And how busy people are and how they're multitasking constantly.
And coming home to cook. So what would you say to somebody, who out there has kids? Okay, I can't see you, so clap.
Yeah.
All right, and who out there is it challenging to cook for your kids? Oh, that's good, that's good. Pleasantries, those 3 people. But what would you say about this book in terms of making vegetarian dishes or vegetables for kids? I mean, vegetable dishes that maybe your kids eat, and maybe dishes that kids say they don't like vegetables, and what would be the gateway veg for them? From you.
Listen, I just think the matrix of kids and cooking and parenting is tough. I mean, it's like warfare. Yeah. It's properly hard. There is no one size fits all. Right. I mean, like, you know, even my wife was like, she taught the kids that frozen peas were sweets. And we know they're kind of cute, they're green, and they're sweet, right? And they kind of pop. So I kind of get it, but they believed her. They really believed her. They go, you know, when like kids try and go and like the cookie one, I want chocolate, fucking in all the drawers and everywhere, you know, like they were doing that to peas, for real. It's like, wow, that actually worked. But I think kids are so marketed to from such an early age. They're so brand aware from such an early age. The modern day parent has to be psychologist, psychiatrist, like cook, you know, mum, dad, but also marketeer. And I think when you live in a city like this, or any city around the world, like you're so far from dirt and so far from farmland that it gets even harder. And so I think just the idea of having fun with food, mega. I think generally speaking, they're more modular about the food they eat, but you can lose good stuff in soups and pasta sauces for sure, smoothies, but they're erratic and they contradict themselves. And it is the most frustrating. I've got 5 kids. I mean, not one of them have had exactly the same pattern. And on a daily basis, I come in and swear about them to my friends at work, and they're like, yeah, and this is what mine did. It's like, I can't believe it. But I think ultimately you just got to be creative. I mean,
and I think getting them involved. I mean, there was one video that you have where you're peeling some tomatoes, and I've actually never seen this. You know, you're peeling tomatoes. You shock them in, well, you put them in hot water, and it starts to peel, and then you peel off the skin. But you take your hand, and you just almost like I hate to use the.
Okay,
I know.
Harry Potter.
It's almost like pimple popper.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you take that tomato and you just squeeze it through your hand. I mean, something like that, showing a kid and how that would be so amazing and so fascinating. And I think it's to get them involved.
I think definitely. I think getting them involved, seeing prep, gadgets, bashing, smells, and trying to have fun around it. I mean, I think most farmers markets are buzzing.
Yes.
So just without even buying anything, you can just walk from one end to another. And if you do that once every 2 weeks for a kid's childhood, like pretty much job done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's the real problems come when you have food deserts and you only have crap available. And it's amazing how bad and how, I mean, like having spent 6 months living in the most unhealthy town in America when we did the ABC show, you know, you started to see that how such an incredible town in a rural area had been kind of starved of all of its resource, and everything was like hardcore processed. So even if you wanted and intended to make a good choice, or a normal choice, should I say, you had to drive 40 minutes on a motorway to go to somewhere where you could get something that's alive.
And that's 40 minutes on top of your 22 minutes that you're willing to spend on cooking.
Yeah, tough. So I think you know, it's interesting when people talk about diets and types of diets and things that they're after. Actually, before any of them, I mean, some of them have science and some interesting data around them, but way before that, your environment is the first diet you should do. You know, I mean, if your workplace is just full of shit, you're going to probably eat a lot of it.
Yeah.
And we done, and if your vending machine has only got crap, you know, and if your corner shop's only got crap, do you know what I mean? So I think it's sometimes just changing the way you go to work is healthier.
Yeah.
And that's not like going. I mean, we're not talking about a carrot versus a burger. I'm saying like there is stuff in the middle. It doesn't have to be one extreme to the other. But look, I just think it's the best job ever.
Yeah.
And I still pinch myself today. I think I did an Instagram post and I'm like, dude, my picture's in Times Square. You know, I'm from Essex. What on earth is going on? I still feel completely blessed and lucky to be able to come here to work. My publisher's here of 19 years. And
that's an amazing relationship.
The lovely Will, we were just talking about earlier, like no one from Britain had ever published in the US. No one.
Wow.
And so he probably could have got a good bollocking or got fired from buying my book, you know, and here we are 19 years later. No regrets, right, brother?
Well, that would be his superpower. Let me ask you, what do you think your superpower is?
Being fairly patient, although that's waning with old age.
Well, okay.
I'm so much less patient now.
Is he patient? Okay, he's like, that's a superpower, especially if you have 5 kids.
I'm fairly patient.
Yeah.
I'm not patient with teenagers. Oh my God, who's got teenagers here? Fucking hell, no one warned us about this shit.
Yeah.
I want a refund. It's just like, my God, I've worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm coming out the other side now, so it's getting better.
Yeah, aliens take them and
that was a shock.
Back. Yeah.
How can something so angelic turn?
Yeah.
Just with one moon.
You weren't warned?
I was warned, but I didn't think it would be like this.
Let me ask you something else. What are you afraid of doing? I believe that I try to do things that scare me, just for growth. You know, I recently did stand up, scared the heck out of me, but I did.
I can see you being very good at that.
I gotta laugh at you. I just want, oh my God, thank you. Thank you, 5 people. What is something that you're afraid of doing?
I mean, most of the campaigning stuff that we do, where you raise your head above the parapet and have an opinion, is very, very frightening. I'm not going to lie. And I might look cool, calm, and collected, but I'm not. And I think I'm really grateful that the campaigns that we've done have worked. You know, and they're really complex.
Yes, I
mean, even getting the Sugary Drinks Tax in the UK, which is just a kind of, it's a 20% tax on soda, right? So you're probably thinking, well, I don't want that.
Yes.
And most people don't really like tax, right? But you know, this was a narrative that we made a documentary. We forced Parliament to debate it. The science from all the cleverest people was there. We knew the single largest source of sugar came from soda. We knew it had come from a cute thing to a prolific thing that owned everything that we had in the country, from the Olympics to the biggest soccer games. And they weren't reformulating. So what's happened in literally since we've had it, this year in the UK, currently it's about £430 million of new money that goes directly and only to elementary schools for school and breakfast clubs, right? So it's a tax for good, right? But most importantly...
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible.
2 out of 3 products reformulated in about 6 months after 20 years of dragging their heels.
6 months?
6 months.
Wow.
Some of the biggest brands did it in 3 months. And then the other brands ganged up on that CEO because he did it, because he knew he could. He'd done the blind tastings, he had the technology, you know. And so what's interesting is, but more than anything, it's, as much as you all love these brands, I'm sure, it was the first time the British government had put the food industry that was compromising our kids' health on the naughty step and give them a hiding. And it's really important. You don't want to do it too much,
right,
but you want to do it when it's just, when it's logical, when the science is there. And I literally cannot think of, and it polled at 76% approval rating. So,
wow.
I mean, like, so that's not an easy, that gig is not an easy gig. When I sat down in front of my mob, my team, it was a group of people about this much. And, you know, it's not an easy sell. But it was definitely the right thing to do. It was definitely the right thing to do for the kids. And actually, the industry's behaving better now because of it. And now they've been put on the naughty step when the government starts to threaten other parts of the industry to behave. You know, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, we're just talking today about pink slime. I don't know if you guys ever saw my show, like Food Revolution. Yeah, bless you. So we outed pink slime, which was the most inappropriate. In all of its glory, the American government said that if there was less than 25% of this product in a product, then none of you deserve to know it was in there. It's completely ethically wrong. And this was a product that I would never feed to my enemies, let alone my family or people I loved.
Right.
So we outed it on that show. And it was unethical on so many levels, because I'm just a massive believer in, if you give the public truth, they often make great choices. If you lie to them, then they often make bad choices. So when we outed that on the show, McDonald's pulled out, Wendy's pulled out, like everyone just like boom, 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 boom. Guess what? Oh, guess what? I mean, guess what, guys? Instead of that filthy shit that, you know, actually they put meat back in. Wow. Really? What, you mean the stuff I thought I was getting? Oh, wow, okay. But it's interesting how that went around the world, because of course it was an American narrative, but everyone else in the world was saying, well, we don't want it either. And they were going, no, that was just in the US because the government let them lie.
Right.
So I think like these, on the serious side of food, I'm very passionate about food education in schools,
Yeah.
school food.
And you put yourself out there. I mean,
Yeah, and it's
you
like, and
allow
people hate you
yourself to
for
be
it.
the target.
People hate you for it, and then like the tabloid papers will kind of make it look like I'm stealing your pizza. Like, really? Is that the truth? Not. I don't. I love pizza. You got questions in your hand.
I do have questions.
That could be
in my
dangerous.
hand. I know, and I like them. They're good.
Are you gonna like just pick anyone random, or are you gonna like edit while?
Oh, I get to edit. Wait, let's see how many we can get through. Let's and I may cut you off.
I hope you've been.
If food
kind.
hadn't been your calling, what would it have been?
I would have loved to have been a carpenter.
Oh, I would have been a race car driver. If you had to live with only one vegetable, oh, who said that? What would it be? Can you choose? If you only eat one vegetable, what is your basically? What is your desert island vegetable? I mean, but aren't there more vegetables on a desert island? And crazy delicious, there are lots of vegetables in that garden. I know.
It'd be a pretty sad life, really.
I know, right?
I mean, like technically, tomatoes or tomatoes are not a vegetable; they're a fruit.
You can say tomatoes.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's a really tough one. I mean,
Eggplant.
I love eggplant. I mean, probably.
Mushrooms.
I think maybe sweet potato would be the most
sweet potatoes.
advantageous for longer life without dying. You know, throwing a bit of seaweed for free, you're probably okay for a few years. You might get rickets or scurvy, but you know, I don't like the idea of having to choose. That's the joy of veggies.
I know, exactly. It would be hard for me to choose, but I do like the idea of sweet potatoes. I mean, and we could throw them in the fire and they get all charred, and then, you know, like the seaweed for salt, and you could do sweet or savory. Oh my God. What is your favorite dish to eat and favorite dish to cook? Thank you. It says right there.
I think when you're a chef, like it's a bit of a weird one. You go through lots of phases.
Yes.
And also you're paid to sort of keep things moving on. So it's quite hard to
How
be
long do
allowed.
your phases last, though? I mean, do they last for 3 months?
Yeah,
or?
they can be a bit odd, and you might just be obsessed by a process or an ingredient, and just like get over yourself, move on. And I mean, I think I eat like a really good, like simple pasta dish with a good arrabbiata sauce, and like what we call the pangrattata, like garlic breadcrumbs, maybe a little herb for it, you know, crunch, soft, sweet, hot. I mean, that's kind of like, if I came in and everyone's eaten and like they've all gotten to bed and I'm starving, like I would probably knock something like that up. But my mum's roast dinners, like nostalgically, are amazing. Yes. You know, all the trimmings, sticky toffee pudding.
Oh, sticky toffee pudding.
Do you guys know the British sticky toffee pudding?
Yes.
So like,
I know banoffee pie.
So this year, like, I mixed it up a bit because I did my first ever Thanksgiving. Because we've always watched, but just kind of wondered what you were all doing, really.
I always call my friends in England like they're off. They're not off.
Yeah, no, we were working away. But like, we had some American friends come over, and I thought, look, I want to make it special for them, and they come to see their daughter in uni. So we like just threw a Thanksgiving, and that was amazing. And we all did thanks. We said the thanks, what we're thankful for, which it's very un-British, you know, because it got very emotional and there was like tears and shit, and it's like, fucking hell, this is so...
That's what we do.
Like, so American. And, but it's nice to see all those crusty Brits kind of like break down a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But also it's a great, like, it's a great kind of dress rehearsal for Christmas.
Yes.
But so I did a cool recipe, which was the sticky toffee pudding, but instead of all of the dates, that's the secret ingredient that gives you that caramel hit. We roasted off some beautiful pumpkin with a little cinnamon, and we swapped out that. So pumpkin sticky toffee pudding for your next Thanksgiving. Please give it a go. It's on the website. It's for free. Sorry, Will, it's free. You can't buy it. You can't buy it in a book.
That's amazing. And I think up here, because in the States it's the whole thing, are you a pumpkin pie person or a sweet potato person? Down south they would use sweet potato, same thing.
Oh, really? Nice to have choice, isn't it?
Someone asks, how much should we be eating?
Christ.
I know.
Well, I think it depends on your age and your metabolism and your sex.
Yes.
Generally for average adult woman, it's about 1,800 calories a day, and the man's about 2,200, but that's broad strokes. Yep. Calories are kind of a bit of a blunt instrument, but they're efficient in it to a degree. But I think everyone's different. Generally, most people have, you know, myself included, my job's to eat for a living.
Right.
So, you know, but I think just sticking to 3 meals a day is probably a good one. It's the snackability these days, which is the big change in 30 years, I think.
That
Snacks
is the
and
thing.
drinks.
Yeah, because they're readily available. I mean, the grab and goes are really popular in grocery stores, and now they're starting to be healthier. But this is my question. I'll get back to y'all's in a second. In traveling, how do you stay fit? I mean, all of the...
Traveling?
Yeah, when you're traveling.
I'm terrible at it.
I know, right?
Terrible. That's like, you know, but I try to get to the gym 3 times a week, and I'm trying to mix up my strategy for this year, because last year was it's a very testing year for me last year. So I kind of like I was off point.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try and smash it this year. But I haven't started yet.
We're going to start it right now with the ultimate veg.
Yeah, but yeah, I think, you know, it's as you get older as well, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I try to, whatever hotel I'm in, I try to do 20 minutes in the stairwell, because most hotels have steps.
So what is that, twerking or just
working?
I don't know, what are you doing?
You know what twerking is though, right?
Yeah, it's like dancing.
Oh, okay, then no.
I don't know, what are you doing in the stairwell?
No, I'm walking up and down the steps for 20 minutes.
I think you're a lunatic.
Well, the thing is, nobody else is there but me. You know, and then
we've got a terrorist in, and but she's just not sure which door to go in. It's like,
I go all the way up, I go all the way down, and I'm listening to a book. But I do get a
There'll be someone on CCTV watching you, by the way.
Yeah.
Isn't that girl up there?
I get a random housekeeper. They're like.
But you know how like footsteps echo a lot in those stairwells, so probably all the neighbours really like
No, you have to hold in your core.
What? That doesn't. How does that affect the acoustics of walking?
No, you're not supposed to be dropping your weight, so you're making all that noise. That you're supposed to be like light on your feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Fucking, this is complicated.
Okay, so here's a handwritten note. Dear Jamie. Hi.
Hi.
How old were you when you cooked your first food? And what was it? And what made you love it so much that you became a chef? Maya. Maya, did I do that great? See, I felt you.
Bless you, Maya. Lovely handwriting, Maya.
And in blue.
Very legible. I was about 7 and I made an omelette, which was, I know sounds maybe a bit simple and boring.
No, it doesn't.
But it was just, it's like, you know, a good omelette's not that easy. It's about heat control, isn't it? But do you not like an omelette?
I love omelets.
Yeah, I love
omelets. My gosh, you are speaking dirty to me right
now. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. But then once I'd been taught it, my dad said you can do it whenever you want. So I do remember the feeling of actually, I'm allowed to have that whenever I want and I can do that. And then just various versions of that. And then probably when I was about 10, I did a full Monty roast dinner with all the trimmings on my own. And that was like a big turning moment. And also I was doing really shit at school.
Okay.
So I hadn't really, and this is not a violin thing, it's like I'd never really got any approval from my parents with anything at school.
Right.
Which is where most of that stuff happened.
Yes.
But then when I did the roast dinner, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I remember when they said that, all my hairs went up and I'm like, what, really?
Right.
So look, humans are pretty simple, right? They tend to stick, if they enjoy something, they tend to do it more. So I just felt like I could express myself through cooking and I just stuck to it. And even when things carried on being terrible at school, because school just wasn't for me, and I didn't really get much help with dyslexia and all that business. But I just worked every weekend at Mum and Dad's restaurant, and they had a great restaurant, still do actually. And so by the time I was 16, I'd done every section several times. In the summer holidays, I just loved money. You know, if you're like 12, 13 years old, and everyone's whining about having no money, and I just put the shifts in, like, you know, £1.20 an hour.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
What?
10 hours a day.
Right.
I'm in. That's, you know, like, you know, and when you're 13, I always had 20, 40 quid in my pocket. Always.
I mean, that's a lot of money for a 13-year-old.
When you're a kid, yeah, and like, if you wanted sweets, that's like 10,000 sweets. It's like, but no, I think like being able to earn money as a young child is like, I think it's mainly illegal in most places now. But I really believe in it. I think getting kids to understand the value of money and to.
I see you taking advantage of your kids on the show. I think they're working there.
I try. Buddy's an amazing worker.
Yeah.
Like he'll come in and he'll work in the office and he'll prep and cook and serve my teams. And
how old is Buddy?
9.
Wow.
Like he'll do it. Like, but
I don't even have a kid, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong.
It's okay to want stuff.
Yes.
But work for it and save up for it.
Yes.
And I haven't. I've negotiated so many deals with my daughters, and I think it's a pride thing. They're not biting. So, sometimes I negotiate the most outrageously weighted on their side deal, just to see if I can break the veil of kind of like, well, I'm not doing it, and I haven't broken them. Like, you know, I've done deals that everyone in this room would want to do, you know, and it's just, no, I'm like, really? And then I'm like, George, do you think they're really lazy? I mean, we're going to be stuck with them for the rest of our life. It's like, but Buddy's amazing, bless. Well, I'll get the girls another year, but they are like 18 and 17. It's quite like, it's getting on a bit.
Yeah.
But no, I was working for pocket money from about the age of 10.
Yeah.
And by the time I was 16, I could like break down a pig, break down a lamb, break down chicken, like flatfish, roundfish, make various Anglo, French, Swiss desserts, sponges, meringues, ice cream.
Keep bragging.
But that's, I mean, I'm not bragging, but it's.
No, but I mean. Not bragging, but
kids are amazing.
This
like,
is pretty awesome.
Kids are so amazing, and you see what they do, like on America's Got Talent.
Yes.
You know, the things they can balance or do or bounce or juggle or BMXs or like whatever thing Red Bull sponsoring is like incredible. And then like, well, why would that be different in the kitchen?
Yeah.
The only thing I needed was like a beer crate to stand on, and I was sorted. Do you know what I mean? I was just too short.
Yeah.
I was just too short to prep.
But I think the thing of it, when you look at the effects or the Food Network, and kids grew up watching it, and now there are these amazing child protege cooks, and they're doing these cooking shows, and you're like, wow, but that is the effects of actually seeing something, and those kids who are interested in it, they do it.
Yeah.
And I think, and so these same kids grew up watching you, and you make it approachable, and you see the passion, and you're saying bash and this and that, and you know, and it's exciting.
I think making cooking like accessible. Mm-hmm. And not making it like a niche club that you have to be some like specific thing to fit in. Do you know what I mean? Like you know, trying to keep retelling everyone that everyone's welcome.
Right.
Is the important bit, and I think like there's a lot of comparing in the world of cooking. You cannot compare a child today of 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 40 years ago, or 50 years ago. You cannot, and it's all intermingled in everything else that we live. You know, whether it's supermarkets, the freezer, the microwave, the rise of brands, junk food, women going to work. There's like 1,000,001 things. Family structures, grandmothers, grandfathers. You know, it's so complex, so complex. So, like, you know, you can never replace the teaching of a family unit.
Yeah.
But families don't operate like they used to anymore. You know, and so we have to try and do what we always do as humans, which is kind of meander and duck and dive and tweak and like, you know, and even I think the next phase of food industry is I mean, hopefully we're gonna, like, truth and honesty, which should be our human right, will help us navigate as politicians and as people, mayors and as parents and consumers. But I think, you know,
but what I'm
just trying to find time to make cooking like just normal.
Right, it's something that we do. But what I'm hoping, and thinking about your show, Meat Free Meals, and thinking about how successful it was and looking at this book, Ultimate Veg, where you can go to a food event and actually have more vegetarian food. I'm not even vegetarian, and I think that a lot of times you're discouraged from doing vegetarian foods because they don't find vegetables sexy. But I think that and my content manager, social media content manager, Kristen is here, and I have a Kirsten and a Kristen. But the whole thing of going to one of these food events and vegetarians pay the same amount of money and they get 1% of the food, right? But chefs are starting to get excited about vegetables.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing. I think if you do a roundup of the history of cooking, you know, just the overuse of animal products. And I'm a meat eater, so it's not like I'm trying to convert anyone, right?
Right.
But I do think that meat should be uncomfortable. It should be. And being fussy is probably a good thing. And but also more as a kind of general cook's sort of, you know, being able to find deliciousness and joy in everyday vegetables through method or through prep, through the use of spices, herbs. That's the genius, and it's complete. By the way, it's completely normal. Like, you know, obviously when I do a vegetarian cook, I've been asked to do a vegetarian cookbook for basically 20 years, and I say, look, 65% of all my books has been vegetarian.
Right.
So, like, you know, what do you need? But actually having a place, having clarity, is kind of a big statement. And I think and I know that there's an energy now, which is, you know, you'll hear stuff in the press like it's trying to ramp and upset people and make it look like it's a competition between you and them. But I think ultimately there are development chefs in companies all over America and the UK today that are trying to find better, more delicious sort of meat-free alternatives and give you true choice. Yeah. And I think that's a positive thing. And I think, you know, even us as a family, like we're now pretty much only eating meat at the weekend. And I'm trying to do booze at the weekend too. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I think that's the intention, is sort of Monday to Thursday. You know, and it's amazing how the shops are simpler. You can save a load of dough. It's healthier, and if you're kind of really thinking about the environment and stuff at the moment, I think this is a really positive thing. And you know, when I think again when McDonald's and some of those fast food brands start doing, you know, like McDonald's India is doing some incredible vegetarian stuff. Like you'll get, and I would expect you'll get foodie journalists going, come and have a look at this. Right, so it's amazing what can happen if the demand is there. Yeah. You know, I think with, you know, we don't have it so good in the UK, but like, you know, you guys know the joys of really good Mexican food. Yeah. And just how clever.
We're not everywhere. Just some places like West Coast.
Well, you know the good ones, and but we don't. I mean, we don't really have. We haven't been blessed with that yet, really. But just the cleverness of salsa and what you can do with grilled items,
and
slow
corn, tortillas, and all of that. Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to travel to Mexico, and it just blows my mind. But of course, every country is interesting.
Right.
So
and I think you also show that in your book. You show how globally you have this influence of food, and you show it through vegetables. And again, I want to talk about the depth of flavor and the techniques, and it's just a delicious dish that happens to be vegetarian. And you happen to be very awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome. And we happen to be at the end.
Oh, that's a good ending.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I want to remind you all that Jamie will be signing his book somewhere. I'm supposed to, this way. Jamie will be signing his book, and I'll be signing mine too. Thank you so much for coming.
Bless you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.